Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Presley, editor of Catfish Now magazine, and I've got Roy Harkness here with me today from Tennessee. Roy is a B&M Poles pro staffer and fishes a lot on the Tennessee on the Tennessee River and the Mississippi River is what I started to say. But you're near Memphis, at least in that area. Welcome to Catfish Now.
Hey man, glad to be here. Yeah, like you say, we love to fish on the river systems. We live 15 minutes from the Mississippi River from two different boat ramps, which cover about 40 to 50 miles of Mississippi River, which is very good. And then we'll travel the Tennessee River around Pickwick area, which is a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're making a lot of people drool right now to think you're that close to that kind of fishing. But
right.
You've also got your boys with you there tonight, and I've got a picture I'm going to stick up there. Those guys. Why don't you introduce us to those two guys right there?
Right. Well, we got Luke Harkness over here. There's Luke, and then we got Hunter Harkness. He's my oldest.
Hunter's the oldest, and Luke is the youngest. There, they got a nice fish there. Is that a Mississippi River fish?
That one there is a Tennessee River Blue. There.
That's a Tennessee River Blue. Well, that's nice. So the boys have they always liked to fish?
They've always liked to fish. They love to be outdoors. They love hunting, fishing, and anything. If it's only time they're in the house is if it's raining. So
yeah, that keeps them in. Yeah, that'll keep me in too.
Right.
Well, the December issue of Catfish Now is always dedicated to youth fishing. And knowing you had a couple boys that you fished with a lot, I thought I'd ask you if there was anything special you did as they come up and they were learning and so on.
Well, the main thing, you got to keep it fun. You got to keep it simple. First few times I went with the boys, I like to target big fish all the time. I have a hard time going just to catch fish, but I always like to look for big fish. And with kids, you've got to keep it simple, keep it fun, and don't worry about going chasing that big fish. Just catch fish. Growing up, we can remember going to ponds and catching brim, and it didn't matter how big it was, whether it was a 3-inch brim or a 2-pound brim. If it was more to it than that. So what I try to do, like my kids bumping, we try to keep it small baits. Like I'll run, this is a leader here, and I'll go to single hook, and I'll go to a 5/0 hook, just a little smaller. Like I use a Dodgy 5/0 hook, and I'll put a float on it. Just if we get in a lot of structure, unless we're on a sandbar or something, that helps hold that bait up. You just have to be careful. Sometimes it'll slide down on the hook, so I'll put a peg in each end of that float just to keep it from sliding. If it gets sliding down there, you'll miss bites. They'll actually bite get the float in there, and it'll keep you from hooking up. And that's just a simple leader I run. I try to go as slow as possible with the boat to give them time to react. I'll use a lighter braid. We use a 40-pound braid, which is more sensitive than what I normally would use on a tournament, which is 65-pound braid. I'll go smaller baits, which is crazy. Tennessee River, 2 different occasions, we were just trying to catch fish, and we had baits the size of a quarter on. And I can't remember, it was the year we won the WCC pre-fishing. I had a bait the size of a quarter on it, and Luke caught a 63-pound blue on it. And this past year, just a few months ago, we were up messing around, just fun fishing Tennessee River again. And we downsized to a small bait, and he caught a 60-pound blue on a bait the size of a quarter. So that goes to show you don't always have to be big bait,
Yeah, and you hear those stories more often than you might think. The big fish, if that little bait's in front of him, he's going to eat it, I think.
If he's hungry, he's going to open his mouth and eat it. And you probably got a better chance of hooking up than you do a big bait.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to catch a lot of little fish, too, when you got that little bait.
And another thing, you better bring lots of snacks if you take growing boys, because they will eat everything in the boat.
They're always hungry.
They're always hungry. I don't know where they put it.
Hey, yeah. Well, there you go, folks. Listen to those tips. I mean, you got to make it fun. And the idea of the cork and not hanging up, I like that, because you don't want to be messed up with being hung up and retying and all that stuff if you don't have to.
Right.
You have to keep their attention, keep it simple.
Exactly.
So there you go, folks. Yeah, go ahead.
If they're hung up all day, it's not going to be fun to them anymore.
It's not going to be fun.
Don't fish places that are so hangy they can't do. If you're bumping or drifting, just don't make it miserable for them. You know, I know how it's frustrating for me in a tournament, and I'm hung up 3 or 4 times. Imagine them as young as they are, how they could react.
How they would react and all. Well, there you go, folks. That's your B&M tip of the month.